Thank y'all so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. I know I am very excited for this session. I imagine all of you in the audience are feeling the same. We have some very special guests with us, some of whom I've worked with before, and they have some really interesting content to deliver today, talking about the future of hip hop and gaming with Death Row Games and 404 Creative. So y'all give a hand to start it off for our amazing speakers here. My name is Zoe Schneider. I work for Epic Games, and I'm going to be moderating this session, but I would like to hear from these other folks. So Cordell, I'll pass it to you to do a bit of an intro.
How y'all doing? My name's Cordell. I work with the Tupac Shakur estate and Snoop Dogg as far as starting Death Row Games. It's been a dream of mine since I was 6, 7 years old playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Always wanted to build a world that, I could relate towards, and UEFN has gave us the ability to do that, and that's why we're here today.
Shiv, Jain. I work with Cordell and the Death Row team and Snoop for the past 10 years. We've always been very tech forward and very just kind of like focused on what's cool, what's new. And, as Cordell mentioned, like we did this last year and we brought Snoop out to Unreal Fest, and this is us staying in the space, staying committed and wanting to build more deeply in UEFN. Which leads us to JJ.
Hi, I'm JJ. I'm one of the co-founders and COO at 404 Creative. We're a self-taught, self-funded developer studio. We've been developing games in UEFN since it released and since Fortnite Creative came out many years ago.
Very nice. And it's not just y'all on this stage. You have a wider team of people influencing the work you do and helping you bring these visions to life. Tell us a little bit about them.
Well, after last year when we spoke on the panel with Bill Clifford, we did a call to action. I put my email out there, and Ewald and JJ were actually the first two people who emailed us. So, we're real big on collaborating. And it was over 1,000 emails that we had to go through to see, who fit us as a company in the direction that we want to go and who also has a vision already. Because we didn't just want to jump in here because we got Snoop as a name or Tupac as a name. We want to jump in here with people that are credible and that's really building for the community.
And from a Snoop perspective, he's like he as Cordell will tell you, he's an actual gamer. Like really takes his Xbox with him everywhere.
Did y'all watch the Olympics a few months ago? So every time he wasn't on screen, he was on his Xbox.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about late at night, 1 in the morning, 6 in the morning, like all night he was gaming, and he would sleep for like an hour or two to go, be at the Olympics. But gaming has been a top priority, before I was born. Him and Tupac used to play, I can't remember the console, but they used to play all night long. And just hearing stories of how much of a gamer he is and how much, his fans actually don't really know that unless you, really tapped in. And we just wanted to really capitalize off of, him being a huge IP and how can we intersect ourselves into the gaming industry.
Mm-hmm. And when you're talking about how Ewald and JJ were reaching out to you, Shiv, you made a really interesting point yesterday when we were talking. This is sort of a full circle moment, right? Like this started at Unreal Fest last year, obviously with Snoop and Cordell on stage with Bill. But you said something that I think is really important for the audience to hear, which is tenacity, something that's important in hip hop generally, but really important too as you're building this business and that persistence of people willing to put themselves out there to connect with y'all and actually participate in what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, Cordell and I and Snoop and the larger Death Row team, we're all very open to working with different creators, different collaborators, especially on the gaming front. And JJ and Ewald and the teams that reached out to us, the one thing that separated them was persistence in following up and just being, if you ever get, as hopefully everybody will at some point get a chance to work with us, if you get the chance to work with Snoop, he moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and there'll be 2 a.m. calls, there'll be 1 a.m. and it's whoever could accommodate to that and is willing to accommodate to that. So that was a big part of why we work with JJ and why we work with Ewald and why we work with some of the other partners that we have. It's being able to be flexible and just ready to do and dip and dive into different opportunities.
Right. When you're talking about what you're building and how you're building it, Death Row Games is not just Death Row Games. There is Good Game Champ, which we heard a little bit about last year at Fest, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about that and how they're a little bit different?
Yeah, so we kind of split it up intentionally, right? Death Row Games we do a lot in licensing. There's a lot of, you see Snoop in Call of Duty, you You're going to see Snoop in a few other places in the next couple of years. And we wanted to create Good Game Champ to specifically focus on UEFN. We look at UEFN as a 5-10 year project of building in the space, bringing IPs to UEFN. We did the T Grizzly map with 404 earlier this year, and that was just our first introduction into the space, and really bringing hip hop into the Fortnite ecosystem. It's something that's been lacking in terms of like the whole scope of Fortnite. So T Grizzly's a figure in the streaming community, and we felt like that was like the right place to start. But we've learned a lot since then, and we've been working with 404 on like kind of expanding and building on top of that. And I think when we think about Good Game Champ, it's like that's our commitment to UEFN for the long term.
Yeah. I mean, speaking about that, JJ, I'd love to hear from you. You're seeing in front of you just a little taste of like how expansive this is, the teams that you're dependent on, the tools that you're working with, and how it all comes together. And creators are a big part of that. I mean, you were sitting in the audience in a session just like this a year ago and decided to step up and try to do something. Tell us a little bit about that experience and collaborating with these guys.
Well, for us, it was an absolute no-brainer. I mean, everybody who was excited about that talk reached out, right? And for us, it was really organic. And when we first chatted, like you said, we picked up the phone and it was organic. And it was something that was a nice foundation for us to keep growing with. And that's how we work, right? We just fly by the seat of our pants, right? So it's been really exciting because we do definitely share that passion for like growing the space and creating opportunities for, especially people like myself. Like I'm one of the few women literally in the community. There's like not that many of us, and especially women-led teams. And it's important to see yourself represented. And I think that's a big vision.
That was important to me too. Once I found out JJ was a female, I'm like, oh, we gotta work with her. Like I remember Epic was trying to push us towards some of the bigger studios who've done bigger projects, more users, and I'm like, I don't really care about that. I've connected with JJ. I was raised by my mom and my auntie and grandma, so it was some sort of synergy there that I felt, we would be comfortable with.
No, and I mean, we'll talk more about that because, hip hop is a culture of its own, right? And having authentic representations of it is so important. We get to that a little bit later in the presentation, but I think when you're seeing this sort of collaboration of so many different people and brands and teams, I love what you've said here on the side as well, that UEFN isn't just a platform, it's the next frontier of digital presence. And that's an environment that everyone should be welcome to, right? Cordell, I feel like you talked about that a little bit on the main stage last year about like where you see this going forward in the future of that. There's some slides on that, coming up, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about like what that line really means to you.
I just want to really like be able to delegate, whether it's film and TV, music with Death Row, IP with, estates that aren't here anymore, and try to, give them a digital presence that can keep them relevant. We're working with a film studio by the name of Regency, and they've done over 150 films, like The Revenant, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, titles that I grew up on that I love. And, we're finding the opportunity where we can find that intersection of putting those films, in front of new audiences to hopefully, have some sort of action items for someone who's having fun with the game to go rewatch that film, to go, go listen to a Tupac track, go see what Snoop's doing now, and just like really putting it in front of all these users, because gaming is such a, huge space that I feel like there's not a lot of representation for people of color and the culture specifically. Yeah, there's a lot of licensing deals, but there's no real ownership in the gaming space, and we want to change that.
Yeah. So we've already talked about it a little bit, but that collaboration, I mean, that's a really powerful vision, and it's really important, and it's going to help create some really fun and amazing things that we're going to see in the ecosystem. But I'm loving how y'all have been able to collaborate with the experts in this space who have been here since Fortnite Creative, who were there for the inception of UEFN, who I've worked with you. I know you know these tools back to front. You've made some crazy deadlines because you're a pro at this. So I'd love to hear from Shiv and JJ, just like, how do y'all set up that business to make sure that your vision is being represented and then you actually like bringing it to life and building it with you and other creative teams?
I'm going to just say this. I'm big on trying to be the dumbest person in the room. that's something that my father taught me. You know, all the things y'all see him doing is because he has teams. You know, it's no mistake why he's everywhere and his name is being brought up in all these different rooms, because he's positioned himself with a team that he can trust and that's credible in that exact field. And we knew, yeah, we're gamers, we consume, we play these games, but we've never built a game in our life. We have to lean on the experts and let them lead us, and we have to collaboratively come up with a vision that is realistic and, you know, feasible. And that's why we felt like 404 was the right partners.
Yeah, I think that touches on a really important thing. Like for us, it's really important to develop games that are targeted at the player first. So games that people want to play, games that they're already playing, that are, you know, a unique take on it. So that was really what led us with the T Grizzly project, is to create something that we know people will want to play, but to add that nice spin, that authentic feel, like it was a recreation of Detroit in a Fortnite vibe, you know? So that was really exciting for us to be able to take a lot of those pieces that were really important to T Grizzly, like his grandmother's house, the El George's restaurant. We've got the Hibachi truck. Like these are things that T's invested in his city. But we also see like actual buildings that you would recognize in Detroit. So it was just really cool to be able to lead from a bit of a creative perspective, but also bring what's really important to the artist.
And it's kind of crazy because JJ said El George's. That's now a new restaurant, but in the 80s, that was a McDonald's. And that was my father's first job, because my grandfather lived in Detroit in the same neighborhood as T Grizzly. So it was like a full circle moment for us to be able to create that, you know, in Fortnite.
Yeah. I mean, that was your first launch in UEFN. Shiv, tell us a little bit about what that process was like and some of the key learnings you took away from that experience.
No, that was really cool. I mean, like, for us, it was cool to work with T and kind of get his understanding, and like JJ and Cordell touched on, to recreate his hometown, his neighborhood. It means more than just the player counts, and you know, like it kind of transcends that when you get to, like JJ said, like go to your grandmother's house in a game that you know you could come back to, and that's something that you know wasn't feasible before. And what we learned from it is, you know, we wanted to take from this, like how to be creative about the game, how to be creative about like the game loop that we're making, and to start to like try more different things, like like throw a few things on the wall and see what sticks is a little bit more what we did. So, you know, Cordell touched on it for a second, but what we're doing with Regency, you know, we have a really cool map coming up with one of their film titles, In Time, if you guys are familiar with the movie In Time. And it allowed us to get, you know, like to answer your question, like previously of like what the workflow is like, you know, we brought the opportunity, we came up with a bit of the concept with the Regency team, but then we lean on 404 to flesh that out and to be like, hey, this is what makes sense, this is what doesn't make sense, here's where we could get creative. And I think the game loop that we've built now is really cool, it's really unique. I don't think there's anything like it in the space. So that's, you know, a project that's coming out that we're really excited for.
Well, that's a perfect transition because we're talking about what's next, right? Like that was the first, not the last step for Death Row Games and Good Game Champion UEFN. And you've already talked about some of the Regency content, and I want to come back to that because I think that's really interesting how you're stretching out to different forms of media. But I love this slide as well, where you just see how expansive that is. Something you're going to hear a lot at this event is how games is bigger than music and film combined, maybe even at this point. Like you said it earlier, it's a huge opportunity space, but that's because it's a natural partnership with so many other facets of entertainment media. So tell us a little bit about that vision from more of a conceptual perspective.
Yeah. You want to take it? I got it. Yeah. No, but I think for us, when we started reaching out to our partners, because thanks to Death Row and Snoop and the ecosystem that Cordell and Snoop sit in, we have the access to film studios, to athletes, to sporting events, live concerts. You know, we get to touch everything a little bit and get involved. So for us, when we looked at UEFN, it's like each one of these experiences can have a UEFN map attached to it. When you're marketing for a film, why not make this another part of your marketing budget? You know, you're spending so much money on influencer marketing or billboards or whatnot. For the same price, you could create a UEFN experience that could be much more engaging to your project than a social media post, for example. So that was where we took it to our partners, and everybody's been very receptive about it.
And I think one thing it does too is it's a an ability to create a longer lasting experience. So something that can create community and generate like an audience that keeps coming back. So as opposed to doing a live concert, right? So you can have this one-time experience, or you can have something that is replayable that we keep coming back to, that's really engaging over time, that changes even, that evolves.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about it. You already mentioned it a few times, but the partnership between Regency and Good Game Champ, you've got some really exciting projects coming up with them that, as you mentioned, can be kind of a model for other entertainment industries and sort of how to connect with these players in this super vast and rich environment of gaming.
Who want to take that?
It's all you. It's all you.
Well, like I said, I just feel like it's a great opportunity to push IP in there, and you can use it as a incubation tank to see if this sticks or not. And then it's just a new marketing way, a marketing tool for conglomerates to test it out. Social media the numbers are getting smaller and smaller over time, and I just feel like we got to get creative. We have to be innovative, and that's one thing about us and Team Snoop. We try to stay ahead of the trend before it comes, and he's super open to just being diverse and trying new things, and we feel very confident that UEFN is here to stay.
Me too, so that's good. So we talked about this really briefly, but I think this is a really important point. Sitting on the stage with y'all, it's amazing to see the representation that you're bringing into this space. And as we're talking about the future of hip hop and gaming, we want that to be a future that's inclusive of everyone who wants to be a part of it. So tell us a little bit about your commitment to diversity and how you represent that both in your business and then in the actual experiences that you're making.
So right now, on our slate for UEFN maps, with Snoop and a couple other IP partners we have, Ewald is leading the development, and we've, strategically picked partners, that are from countries like Brazil, countries like South Africa, just all around the globe. We wanted to be able to be as inclusive as possible, and that was something that we spoke on last year about why we're starting Death Row Games, and we're even taking it a step further and trying to figure out how can we put, UEFN in certain school curriculums, like the University of Bahamas, going to places where there's less resources, and hopefully we could, create jobs after we teach them certain skill sets that have to do with gaming.
That definitely touches on something that was really a big part of our conversation when we first met, was that, how many of us here are UEFN creators that we quit our jobs, we quit our day jobs, or we started doing it.
Yeah, raise your hand.
This is crazy. That's incredible.
Clap it up for yourself.
Yeah, that's the opportunity we want to create for others. And I can't tell, I've spent plenty of time in Detroit, and I know a lot of students and young people there. They want a way to create their future, and this is a great opportunity for that. And it's something that you know and love. You play these games, you know these games, you can create them.
And sometimes society marginalizes people. Obviously I have a basketball shirt on, so I get it. But walking through Seattle, everybody's like, "Are you a basketball player? Are you a rapper?" And I'm like, why do I have to be those two things? Why can't I be here? Because I'm here for the UEFN Unreal Fest. Why can't I be a game developer? And that just shows we don't have enough representation. And, one thing we want to do, we want to create opportunities for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, if you take a look at the team that you're working with, that is clearly represented, not only from 404, but some of the other creatives like Zen, who is participating in some of the work that you're doing, and some of the folks you see on this screen, some of whom y'all have seen playing basketball or that you've seen making these games behind the scenes, but you've got a team that looks like the people that you want to be playing it. And beyond that, right? It is so important to have their representation. There was a 2023 GDC study that quoted 96% of people who make in-game purchases are more likely to do so if they feel themselves and their culture represented. And that sounds so obvious, but that's a super compelling statistic, right? 96% of anything is a lot of anything. And so I'm really excited to have y'all in this space with us and really championing those communities and those people, because it definitely means a lot to me. And I know a lot of other people in this room who are champions, allies, or a part of those communities. That is vitally important. So really excited to see more of that from y'all.
Thank you.
So thinking about the stuff that you're making, right? No matter who's playing it, y'all want to make games that everyone's enjoying. And it sounds like you have a lot of stuff coming up on your plate. Tell us a little bit about some of these experiences that you're preparing to launch and starting to work on with some of these teams.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to recreate the wheel. Like, if you could see on the screen, you got the red versus blue, but it's going to be themed around Snoop. So we wanted to lead it with blue versus red for obvious reasons. And then Ewald came up with a great concept. We're doing the only up game, but we're also doing the only down game. I don't know how that's gonna work. We got to figure that out. And just like having fun with it. Like, you know, everything we do, we try to have fun and be respectful and, you know, partner with the experts in this ecosystem, whether it's 404 or Gustavo in Brazil. You know, we're trying to be inclusive. And I'm gonna keep saying that because that's something that we really live by.
Yeah, and for us, like, as Cordell mentioned, we see an opportunity to flood the UEFN ecosystem with Snoop mini games. Kind of like that's the mindset, and creating a Snoop universe, which will include not just Snoop, but Death Row as a brand, Tupac, other hip hop acts, artists. And what you'll see is just a diverse style of game. We have a 2D Contra style game coming. We have, you know, we want to constantly be trying new things because as much as we're going to be, you know, reskinning and working with what already works, but we want to give creators chances to be creative with our IP, right? It's a little boost to your whole process when you know you can leverage the name of a Snoop Dogg or a Death Row or a Tupac. So we ask the creators to, you know, have fun with it, have fun with the music, have fun with the, you know, the messaging behind it, and see what you could come up with. And we, you know, we're pretty flexible from a creative standpoint. Like JJ will tell you, like we like to spitball ideas back and forth, and we'll listen. So.
And that's where the real gold comes from, is when we come up with something that is just, it's a popular game mode, but we add our spin to it. We give it that unique, you know, value that really gets people to want to play it and be part of that. You know, they want to.
Yeah. I mean, JJ, I want to hear more about that because I think I see very familiar faces in the audience here who do that on the daily basis, right? They do that with your team or with others, but I'm sure there's some people here who haven't had that experience. Like, what does that actually look like? How do you organize your thoughts when you're thinking about what kind of content that you're building here? And like, how long does it take? What's that investment sort of look like for you and the team?
It depends. We've been doing a lot of brainstorms lately where we will just like sit in a Discord call for a couple hours, and we have an online, you know, it's called Miro. It's flow charting type tool, but we just will give ourselves some quiet time, throw ideas, move them around. We'll usually finish off with like a pretty good list of what's going on. We'll have that conversation with you guys, give the best of the best, and then talk about the rest too. But and then pretty much go from there. We see what's inspiring, what's exciting, and then we play with it. Like we play to come up with a lot of this. It's fun to be able to take something that we know and love, and then I don't know, make it fun, make it fun.
And it's clear, Cordell and I are big, like, on Fortnite, period. Like, we played since we were, like, now, like, 7 years or however long. It's been pretty crazy how long Fortnite's been around and, you know, relevant. So for us, it's fun, you know, and I think that's a big reason why we're, like, you know, we look at this as a long-term place for us because it's enjoyable. You know, we've done a lot in a lot of different places, and this is where we're having the most fun.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at this sort of timeline that you're on, y'all have been busy, and it's going to only get busier, I think. But you're talking about the development of like sort of thinking about these ideas and bringing them to life. We keep hearing the word innovate this week, and you know, it's an innovative place to be right now. But when you think about hip hop, you think about the forefront of culture. It has always been a driving force of what's cool, of what's interesting, of what's important. How do you continue to innovate in a space like this? I mean, it's rapidly changing, but how do you channel that spirit of hip hop into the stuff that you're working on or excited to build?
I mean, when you think about it, hip hop was birthed off of collaborating. You need a beat maker, you need a lyricist, you need an audience, and taking that spirit, you know, it's been 50 years that hip hop's been around. What does the next 50 years look like? We're gonna have to collaborate with other, you know, fields and sectors in order to help this hip hop thing stay alive and keep its integrity. And we just feel like, obviously they're already doing it in TV and film and whatnot. We just feel like the only real hip hop representation is Grand Theft Auto, and we want to change that.
Yeah, I think it's really important to note, like that was one of the reasons we connected big time when we first met, was that's how all of us creators, we started working together. We met each other. I met my whole team because we were like, hey, that's cool. Can you show me how you did that? And then it spun up into actual work. Then we created a business. Then we now have been running a business for like 4 years. I don't know. It's been a while. But that collaboration is really important to us. And being able to collaborate with other studios is also very exciting. So being able to have that spirit extend into the game developing side of it is extremely important. And creating all these opportunities, there's so much IP. There's no way one studio can handle it all. It's got to be a community-driven thing.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned IP, and I think there's something, you've already sort of touched on this a little bit, but y'all have access to some of the most iconic IP, whether it's hip-hop or otherwise, in the entire world. And while we think about the future of hip-hop, there is no future of hip-hop without knowing where you've been, right? Like, this is really informed by the people who have come before you. It's something that's building blocks, and you're standing on the shoulders of giants, some of whom you've mentioned earlier. Talk to us a little bit about how you actually manifest that likeness and, like, building on that history while still looking forward with some IPs that I'm pretty sure everyone in this room is familiar with.
Well, the Tupac Shakur Estate one was very, sentimental to me. He passed away 4 months before I was born. And he actually told my father to marry my mother while she was pregnant with me. Because they had broke up and got into a fight. And Tupac brought my dad to the side and was like, you need to marry her. And he ended up passing away a week later. And I was recently hired by the Tupac Shakur Estate when I turned 25, and he passed away at 25 years old. So it's just a lot of, synergy there, and I really, hold that close to my heart. But one of the initiatives that we want to do with Tupac is just, give him more of a digital presence, integrate him in games, integrate him, with his own avatar. And any avatar creators in the room, we're looking for someone to create an official Tupac Shakur avatar so that we can feature it, in MetaQuest, the Oculus, the all that stuff. I don't really know much about that, so we're gonna have to lean on y'all for that, experience and whatnot. But it's just, preparing ourselves, like really studying this sector and, aligning with experts. We've been trying to create games since 2018, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing in the first 6-7 years until, UEFN became, something that was within reach to us. It was always, you guys can't do it. You guys don't have the budget. How are you going to do
$50 million, $75 million.
Like, we were getting pointed in all kind of directions, and it was very discouraging, even though we have access to IP. And that's why I'm so passionate about working with UEFN, because it's the low-hanging fruit for creators, and it's feasible. And overall, it's fun. So, we do have, ambitions and dreams to bring Tupac Shakur's presence into Fortnite and all games across the board.
And for Tupac as well, one of the big things is no one's been able to really interact with him in a meaningful way since he passed. You hear the stories, you get to experience him through video, but I think there's something different about getting to tell his story and getting to understand. If you really, as you dive deeper into who he was, it's such a, complex, interesting, person, an incredible individual. So for us, it's like, how can we let people feel what Tupac was like? Because it's such a strong energy, So for us to have that opportunity, and whatever medium we could figure that out in, is what we're really passionate about, trying to understand the best way to represent him.
And the last digital presence that Tupac Shakur had was at Coachella in 2011. That's 13 years ago. A lot of people probably forgot about that.
Oh, and before he passed, something that we spoke about last year, Snoop and Tupac were leading the charge with the script with John Singleton. Wrote a script for a video game called Fear and Respect that they were working on before he passed away, but then Tupac passed away and kind of went out the wayside. But Fear and Respect was basically Tupac's vision, and it was essentially what Grand Theft Auto is today. It was a full script. They wrote it out. John Singleton did it, but it never went anywhere, sadly, because he passed. But he was very big on future forward, being involved in video games. That was something that, as crazy as it is, in 1996 was top of mind for him.
Yeah. I mean, and you've already started a little bit. We'll take a look at a video that your team has put together. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here, and sort of, you've already talked about your vision for this, but you've already started putting pen to paper and trying to bring that to life.
So this was created by Ewald, head of development for Death Row Games. And this specific outfit that they're wearing is the last time my father was with Tupac at the VMA Awards in 1996. And it's a very iconic, outfit that they wore, and I think it's just something there that we want to like grow from. We don't have it all the way figured out, but we do have some bits and pieces, and that's why we're here today to collaborate and get closer to that end goal.
Yeah, this was really fun to make. I mean, in terms of like a long-term plan, like the long-term plan with Death Row Games has always been to eventually, become a AAA studio and work with AAA partners and create a game. And, again, like leaning on the IP and the brands that we have.
And one more thing, go back to that last slide. The car that he's driving is his actual car. And the rings that he has on, the chain. So the Tupac Shakur estate has a vault of all the things that Tupac collected. His furniture, his clothes, his ideas on notebooks. Literally, it's a vault like probably bigger than this room, but he has all his assets in a vault that we could digitize and, put in UEFN, put in some of these engines and softwares and gamify them. So these are all items that he owns. None of this is just created out of thin air.
Yeah, that authenticity, obviously wanting to be respectful and wanting to try to represent that appropriately in these games. I think that's fantastic. And Shiv, you said it, AAA interactive partnerships. Talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing for the future there.
Really, like, again, we don't want to run to it. It's something that, we want to walk to, essentially. Like, we know we have really strong brands, IP. I know we talk about IP a lot, but, we have within the music ecosystem, like tons of partners, and there hasn't really been a game like, for example, like Def Jam Fight Night, there hasn't been one of those games, and that's something that is, we're looking at it, but, that's, again, like I said, like we don't want to run to it. We're gonna canvas, we're gonna work with you guys, work with Epic, work with Unreal, and understand when the best timing for it is.
Right. I mean, you alluded to this earlier, but we're talking a lot about the IP that y'all are intimately familiar with, but you also mentioned that you want to expand this to the broader community of hip hop. What are you thinking about as you onboard other people who you're trying to evangelize this tool set and sort of this opportunity space to? Like some of the artists that you work with or collaborate with, like, are they on board for this vision in the same way that y'all are?
Oh, absolutely. I think, that's a great question, right? Because I think now one of the really interesting things about hip hop and culture as a whole is like gaming. It sits in this like intersection where it's music, sports, fashion, anime, gaming has, the guys and the kids who are popular now, like the athletes like Anthony Edwards, and, they grew up on these things. They all grew up playing video games, which is different than a previous generation, right? So everybody's always wanted to have a game. Everybody's grown up playing, Call of Duty, Madden, Fortnite, what have you. Right, so for them, they're like thrilled with the idea of being able to be featured in a video game. Or again, these are things that for a long time felt, unattainable. Like like developers, engineer costs, this, that, and the other, and people kind of get lost in what you can do.
Mm-hmm. That's the most exciting thing about UEFN period is that it's way less expensive. You can actually create a game, and it's way faster. You don't have to wait 3 years. Right. And you can
coming back to fun.
Right?
It's fun. I see you working with your team. We've done a few videos. You should check them out. And like, y'all really look like you enjoy spending this time with each other. And that's not to say it's not hard work, but you really seem to enjoy bringing these things to life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I want to chat about this because if you haven't picked up on this, they really mean this when they say it. They are open to collaboration. So I'll let y'all take it from here. But it looks like you're looking for help because y'all have some big plans.
The first plan.
Yes, we have a surprise for you, Zoe.
Is to give Zoe. Can we get a drum roll real quick? Y'all gotta do better than that. There we go. Zoe, because you are a representative and you are definitely a part of the culture, on behalf of Snoop and Death Row Records, we want to gift you with your own Death Row chain.
Hold on. You gotta put it. You gotta do the chaining.
If y'all saw my Spotify history, you would know how much this means to me. Like, this is crazy. Oh my goodness.
There it is.
Wow. This is a very rare instance in which I'm speechless, but thank you so much from you and your team. And I mean, it really is such a privilege and honor being on the stage with y'all. Y'all are doing really important work, really compelling work, and like, to witness it feels good. To be a part of it, I can only imagine feels even better in the way that JJ and Shiv and Cordell, like, you're doing something amazing that clearly, look at all these people in the room who care about the work you're doing, who want to hear about the work you're doing. And there's so many more people beyond that, people who will watch us on the recording later and people who will hear about this in a couple of years once all these games are out live and play it and love these experiences. And so truly from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I might never take this off, but I do want to talk about, so that I don't take up all the space for, this moment. What kind of collaborations are you looking at? You already mentioned one that you're looking for some avatar support, but there are people in this room who I think after this are going to be chomping at the bit to work with you. How do they get in touch with you? How do you start these collaborations? How can they become a part of this revolution, as you say?
So real quick, this QR code will lead you to our socials, and we're active on it. We check our messages. What we did last year, we want to build on it. We're very open to working with everybody within the ecosystem. We have, as JJ touched on, there's so much IP that we work with, so there's no lack of content to kind of give and deliver to people to work on.
You know what I want to do? I want to do like a Tupac Pac-Man game, but it's called Tupac.
We're gonna call dibs on that.
Yeah.
See, I need help, y'all.
Cordell goes and hangs out with his dad, and then comes back and has a few ideas.
We meditate together. Yeah. We meditate together.
And this is one of them. So we there's no shortage of ideas and concepts for everybody. So we're always open to working with different studios, diverse creators, and kind of all the things that we've spoken about.
And if y'all see us at any of these parties tonight, please come up, give us a hug, shake our hand, let's exchange information. That's why we're here. We're not too cool to speak to nobody. We're not too busy. We're here to collaborate.
Well, I really appreciate that. I know everyone else in the room does as well. Like, y'all being so open and collaborative and just willing to participate in this ecosystem is going to make it that much better. And so really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Please give them a round of applause for this fantastic session.